There are some rules that developers should follow when they want to build scalable frontend. During last 10 years, I saw lots of experienced developers who just forgot about these rules because they were too focused on specific feature. This is why by the end of this video you will learn what you should keep in mind when you want to make sure that your frontend application is scalable. Step number 1, seeing the bigger picture. I once came to the company where the amount of new features was really small, because 80% of the time team was fixing just bugs. Basically it means that the product is not stable, and no changes of the code will help with that. The solution that we did was that we implemented end-to-end testing just in several days. With this test we saw that the whole user cycle in our application works. And it didn't cost a lot of dev power because you don't need to know code at all to write end-to-end testing. This is a simple solution to make sure that your application is stable. So I'm not saying that you need to write end-to-end testing, I just recommend you to see a bigger picture, what your team struggles with, why you don't have so much progress that you want to. Step number 2, splitting your application by product areas or features. And you can't imagine how many huge projects I saw where everything was split just by file type. So in the React application you have something like components folder, utils folder, API folder, and that's it. Then I'm going to helpers folder and I see 1000 different files with different non-structured helpers. And this was the project where more than 20 devs were working together. Such structure doesn't scale at all and it is difficult to onboard new people with it. This is why on the big projects I highly recommend structure by feature, where you have something like billing module that you want to implement, this is your specific feature, and you put everything inside and it is completely isolated and not shareable. So you have there your components, your API calls, your Redux state, and all your helpers. And this is exactly what we're doing in my middle to senior frontend bootcamp. We plan architecture accordingly and start development only when everything is crystal clear. If something is shareable, yes, it goes to the shareable folder. But again, this folder should not become huge and unsupportable. Step number 3 is having your state in the right place. Nowadays, mostly we're building front-end application with lots of states, and typically people just randomly throw their state somewhere and just live with it. It leads to difficulties on debugging such structure, understanding what state is stored where, and changing it. And here are several popular variants how you can do that. For example, I am a huge fan to have 10% of local state and 90% of Redux state. So we're talking here about Redux or NGRX inside Angular. The idea is that 90% of your application is inside Redux. You can see it always with Redux DevTools, and it is really easy to debug because all changes in your application is done through actions of Redux. But obviously, if data is not really shareable and it belongs just to the component, just leave it there. If it is not shareable and this data should not come outside, like for example is loading or an error for your current component, just keep it there. It is your local state. Another possibility would be to have a server state. And by server state, I mean something like React query or Redux query, where we're using some hook which fetches data for us, cache them, and give us access to local state. This is a completely valid approach also. The next step is super important and lots of people not doing it at all. I highly recommend you to keep your data flow predictable. And what I mean by that, it should be easy for you to debug your application. So you are going with step 1 in this file, then with step 2 you are jumping in the next file, and with the step 3 in the third file. You have this clear cycle how your data is going from one place to another. You don't have any mess where you are jumping constantly between different files, you don't understand structure, and you don't understand why something needs to go to that file. The good example of such structure would be, for example, Redux, where you have a strict flow of data. Your component dispatches action to do some change. This action might be asynchronous and might trigger an API call, but when it is finished, it will trigger a success action, which in turn will update your reducer and your global state. After that, all components which are subscribed to this global state will be automatically updated. This is a really good structured state which is extremely scalable, and it is really often used in huge applications. The next important point is to define your components with clear contracts. Even from senior developers, I really often see components where all inputs are optional. This is not a good approach. You need to make sure that your component requires all inputs, that it needs to be functional. If something is not provided, we want to get a TypeScript error or at least runtime error if you still don't use TypeScript. So with each component, we want to define clear inputs and outputs. Then, when this component will be updated, it is extremely easy to update all places where this component is being used. The next step is to remember about performance. And obviously, you should not try to optimize performance from the start when you don't even know if this is needed or not, but there are some small basic performance steps that you can use always, like for example lazy loading your component and creating a skeleton placeholder in the place where it will be rendered. Then you are sure that your component will only be rendered when it's needed and the application will work smoother. The next step is remember to improve development speed. And this problem I see in every single company. Developers don't want to spend time improving their tooling. They simply do features, and it doesn't matter if development process is slow. I saw slow process in building time, in CI time. Almost always all developers have some excuses to not do that. And I totally understand that, but it is bad in the long run. It is really important to convince your product owner, for example, that you need some time to improve tooling, and then you might speed the whole development process by a lot if, for example, your CI build takes 1 hour and you reduces it to 20 minutes. Just imagine how much more time you will have during the year. And now calculate it for every developer in the team. The next important point is to remember about rewrites. You for sure will rewrite your code sometimes or introduce new versions, like for example new checkout page. But you must do it properly. You don't want to break logic that is already working for customers. But really often you want to test on production because it is the most reliable way of testing how feature is working. This is why we're using feature flags, so we can enable the feature for developers on production or for specific customers. It allows you to test feature on production server with still supporting the old approach. So don't do full rewrites, do gradual replacement. Another important reminder is to make your failures visible. I saw lots of components which just silently break. You don't want that. You have TypeScript, at least do inputs required, so people can't use your component Tron. Additionally for that, if you don't get some data from the API, you should not fail silently. At the bare minimum, you want to throw an error, so it will be logged in places like Sentry. And obviously you want to show the message for the user why something broke. Because if the user does not see any response from the system and it is not working as it should, user won't want to use your application anymore. And this point is really important, and most developers don't do that. Document your decisions and business impact. When people use git blame to check your code, if there is no feature request written or what bug was fixed, you did it wrong. If you implemented some neat architecture but nobody knows about it, you did it wrong. At the bare minimum, you always want to include feature number or bug number in your commit so people know what you was fixing. And if you're doing some architectural change, it must be documented somewhere in the system with clear links how it is working and why. Then you will get less questions in the future and you will show once again that you are knowledgeable. And if you're serious about becoming a senior developer, but you need some guidance to achieve it faster, I highly recommend you my middle to senior frontend bootcamp, which focuses on passing interview, learning everything that senior developer needs, as well as showing you how to build your own project from start to the end. And you can find the link to it under the video.